This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. On the big Rami thing, it's funny you talked about that. I don't know if I've heard Dorian in recent interviews talking about how his one big competitive regret is that if he had just pulled back and kind of coasted when he was Mr. Olympia, that he could have been Mr. Olympia maybe for like another 5-6 years.
Right. Steve Weinberger said to him, "Is like, you're already big. You don't have to be lifting like this." And I think what he meant was intensity.
Yeah.
Like, you do not need to be doing what you're doing. You need to just maintain. So when they said the same thing to Nick Walker, he did. The motherfucker got bigger.
He's a freak, man.
And it's not like Rami lifts heavy either for Rami. You know, he's doing sets of 20 with 1,600 pounds on the leg press. Dude's 350. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm doing sets of 20 with 1,000 and he's doing sets of 1,600, that's not proportionate. So people are like, oh, Big Rami doesn't train hard. He's a pussy. Is like, well, he doesn't need to train hard to get big, which means he can recover faster, which means he can hit the body parts more frequently, which means he will get bigger. That you can use high volume if you're strong as fuck. You're not supposed to train high intensity if you're strong. Because your joints aren't going to handle it.
No, you're just exponentially increasing risk of injury, a la Dorian Yates, why he started ripping every fucking muscle off the bone towards the end of his career.
So, case in point, James Hollingshead has now started lifting a little bit more strategically. That's why he's been going out to train with JP. Like, Ian stopped doing deadlifts because it was making his glutes too big. He's reverted to more machines and cables. Sebum dropped the deadlift, dropped the bent rows, and focused on more lat-specific technical training. That brought up his back.
It seems like when you're young, then that's the time to focus on building up your base, and then once you hit a certain point, I know we've talked about it before, but once you hit a certain point, then you need to back off a little bit and be more intelligent with your training.
And I think that point is usually 40. Like, if you're 40 years old and you're still doing bench, squat, deadlifts with a barbell, that's why you're in pain. Like, you could be using machines and training more strategically and be in a lot less pain, which means you recover faster. So when they're saying shit like you can't grow legs after 40, it's like, well, if your system of growing legs was old school heavy slag iron, then after 40, your knees are going to hurt too much. Your lower back's going to hurt too much to handle the same weight. So your load's going to decrease. If your volume doesn't increase, then you're not going to actually be providing the stimulus to grow more legs. But I think you prove the point. You can grow legs after 40 by switching to high volume.
Mine have grown. I'm having even more leg growth this off season. My legs have blown. I'll have to show you some pictures about my legs have blown up this off season. And I don't do squats. I don't do everything I do for legs is braced. It's hack squats. It's leg presses. I'll do some lunges, like, with the dumbbells. Nothing crazy. I don't get stupid. Maybe split squats, shit like that. But I don't do any heavy compound movements. And my legs are blowing up. They're the biggest they've ever been.
I think mine are tied for the biggest they've ever. This year in general, this off season, I think they're the biggest they've ever been. I'm not the strongest. I'm not handling the most weight.
No, I'm not either.
But I'm handling close with a pause at the bottom of a squat and a slow eccentric, which changes shit.
The strongest I ever was in my early 30s. Right now, it's the biggest I've ever been, I think. So, I mean, they're two different things.
I'm definitely not benching even as heavy as I was 6 months ago. And I don't really understand why. But My chest isn't smaller, it's bigger.
I hadn't done a flat bench in 2 years, or a free weight bench period in 2 years. And I did some benching the other week just for the fuck of it. I was surprised how strong I still was, but I don't I do machines and dumbbells anymore.
Yeah, I just reincorporated. I've been using all machines, but and including Smith machine, but I've just reincorporated dumbbells tonight. And I have to. I was last time I did dumbbells. It was the second exercise, and it was like 100 pounds in dumbbells, 110 pounds for incline, right? And then today I went and did them as the second exercise for chest, and I was using 50s, and I was like, wow, I've got so much runway on these dumbbells
I
because
I
with 110 pounds, I didn't feel shit. Right. Whereas with the 50s, I felt exactly the exact clavicular head fibers I wanted to feel. That if I tweak this, I can get exactly the head of the pack that I want to get to bring up.
It was funny you bring that up because I talked last year. I did Jay Cutler's show, and I got to talk to him. He was super friendly, man. I got to talk to him for like an hour at the show, and he was just super chatty with me for whatever reason. But he was talking about training. We started talking about training, and he said I never use more than 100-pound dumbbells on dumbbell presses. And he goes, people think that's not heavy. He goes, that worked for me. And he goes, I just felt them more. I'm like, fucking Jay Cutler, Mr. Olympia, said he never used more than 100-pound dumbbells on dumbbell presses.
Right. He never used more than 225 on bench press
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
because he's squeezing his pack
Yeah.
and it's pulling his humerus up, which then drives the bar up. He's not pushing the weight, he's squeezing the pack. He's doing an isolation move like a fly against the barbell. They
I
did
don't
a
know if
video with Michael Hearn and Larry Wheels explaining all of this. Like he does guillotine presses, slow, eccentric with a pause,
mhm.
and then he squeezes it up,
I
which is
did
how I
laugh.
try to do it now. I've relearned how to do it, and it's humiliating. You're using 100 pounds less than you used to use on the bench press, but I do it in a Smith and I do it on a certain incline, and I only use one bench to do it, and I use a tape measure to make sure that there is 4.5 inches of this much of the bar before it hits knurling on both sides of the bench. And I look at the bench from different angles to make sure it's perfectly in alignment with the Smith machine. It's so fucking anal. It's pathetic. People laugh. They're like, "Where's your tape measure?"